Jungkook accused of coldness as Jimin rushed to hospital for panic attack. But backstage footage reveals the truth that left everyone in tears. When Jimin collapsed, Jungkook was called heartless for staying on stage. But leaked footage shows the raw truth that shattered everyone's assumptions. In the middle of the cheers, a silent scream, Hyung just collapsed. The shout tore through the earpiece like a gunshot. The stage glowed in synchronized flashes of light. Tens of thousands of fans screamed BTS name, their chants echoing through the night sky above Seoul Dome. Jungkook was center stage, body moving in perfect time with the beat, sweat catching in the spotlight like rain. His voice was steady, his eyes unreadable. Behind the stage curtain, Jimin was on the ground, his chest heaving, his hands trembling as if electrocuted. His eyes were wide, glazed over with the sheer terror of a mind spiraling beyond control. He wasn't breathing right. One of the staff members tried to touch his shoulder, but he recoiled violently, choking on air and panic. "Get the medic team. Now!" Nam Gil, the band's main manager, yelled into his headset, sprinting toward the scene. His clipboard crashed to the floor. A backup dancer helped lift Jimin's limp body, guiding him through the back exit. No one knew yet, but Jimin was minutes away from blacking out entirely. The ambulance waited just beyond the loading dock, and all the while, Jungkook kept singing. He didn't stop, didn't look back, didn't miss a beat. The crowd had no idea. They cheered louder. His face appeared on the Jumbotron, flawless, frozen, cold. By the time the encore ended and the final fireworks exploded into the sky, Twitter was ablaze. Hashtag, where is Jungkook? Hashtag, Jungkook heartless. Hashtag, Jimin deserved better clips began circulating. Jungkook dancing without even a flicker of emotion while chaos unfolded behind the curtains. Speculation turned vicious. Theories spread like wildfire. Had they fallen out? Was BTS breaking up? Was Jungkook indifferent? He didn't even blink when his brother was taken away in an ambulance. He only cares about the stage. If he loved Jimin, he would have walked off. Nobody knew the truth. Not yet. 3 days later, a grainy, black and white security camera recording appeared on a private fan forum. It wasn't official footage. It wasn't even meant to exist, but it broke the internet in silence. The video showed a hospital hallway, empty except for one figure. Jungkook sat curled on the floor against a cold white wall, knees pulled to his chest. His head was buried beneath the hood of his sweatshirt, and his shoulders shook quietly. He didn't speak, that he didn't scream, he cried. For nearly 3 hours straight that a nurse passed by, pausing briefly. Jungkook didn't move. When she knelt down and gently asked something, he only lifted one hand in a silent, "Please don't." Later, she would tell reporters, he just kept whispering, "I wasn't there. I couldn't help him. I should have helped him." And that changed everything. 2 days before the concert, inside a near-empty practice room, the tension had boiled over. "You think you're the only one hurting?" Jungkook had snapped. "I'm not your babysitter, Jimin. We all have pressure. We all have pain." Jimin had stood motionless for a long beat before answering. "Then maybe stop pretending you care," he whispered, voice tight. The door slammed behind Jungkook as he walked out. IT was the last conversation they had before Jimin collapsed. That's why Jungkook kept performing. That's why he looked emotionless on stage. Not because he didn't care, but because he cared too much. Because his mind was ripping itself apart in real time. And he believed he didn't deserve to fall apart where the cameras could see that he was punishing himself. What people didn't know was that Jungkook had been carrying a weight long before the world ever saw it. When he was a trainee, he had witnessed a fellow idol break under the pressure, someone he couldn't save. That trauma had hardened into a quiet fear that one day, someone he loved would collapse again, and that, once again, he would be too late. That he had said things he didn't mean, words that might have cracked Jimin's already fragile wall. And when Jimin fell, literally and emotionally, Jungkook blamed only one person, himself. Midnight struck. For the first time since the incident, Jimin posted an Instagram story that IT was black. Silent. Just one sentence in stark white font. "I was never alone. Jungkook was always there, even when I didn't deserve him." It was like the world held its breath. Comments stopped. Accusations fell quiet. Fans cried. But one question still lingered, unspoken and ominous. If Jungkook was there, why didn't he ever walk into Jimin's room? The truth is still hidden, and when it comes to light, it will break more than just hearts. He's awake now. He keeps asking for you. The nurse's voice was soft, almost cautious. Jungkook didn't answer. He stared at the linoleum floor, still seated in the same hallway where he had waited for hours. Jungkook SSI? He slowly turned his head, but didn't meet her eyes. There was a bruise forming on his cheek. He had punched a wall earlier that night. No one saw it. No one needed to. I can't, he whispered hoarsely. She blinked. He's not angry. It's not about that. Flashback. 2 days, or the sound of Jimin's laugh still echoed in Jungkook's head. Not a happy laugh, a bitter one. A sharp exhale filled with exhaustion and disbelief. You don't understand what it's like to wake up afraid of yourself, Jimin had said, his back to Jungkook in the dim-lit studio. Jungkook, standing a few feet away, arms crossed tightly across his chest, replied with more anger than he meant, I don't understand because you never let anyone in. You build these walls and then blame us for not breaking them. Silence. Jimin grabbed his water bottle, his hand trembling slightly, and said without turning around, You say you care, but you only show up when it's convenient for you. That hit harder than it should have. Jungkook turned and left without another word. That was the last time they spoke. Present. Jungkook still hadn't moved. Behind the door, just a few feet away, Jimin was awake, alive, stable, asking for him. But Jungkook was frozen. That I could see wasn't fear of confrontation. It was shame, crushing, paralyzing shame. Because what if seeing his face triggered another spiral? What if just being there reminded Jimin of the fight, of the words he'd said? What if he made things worse? He pulled his hoodie further down over his face. A few fans had already spotted him near the hospital wing. He didn't care. Let them talk. Let them judge. Nothing they could say would be worse than what he told himself every time he blinked. He collapsed because of you. Back at HYBE, the executive team was in panic mode. PR managers were scrambling. The footage of Jungkook in the hallway had gone viral. The damage control team didn't know what to do. Should they release a statement? Should they clarify the fight? But the members had one rule: no scripted apologies for real feelings. Taeyong slammed his fist on the table during the emergency meeting. Why is no one talking about how much pain he's in? He's human. They both are. Namjoon agreed, but there was a bigger concern now: the internal fracture. Because if Jungkook wouldn't face Jimin, how could they face the stage together again? Meanwhile, inside Jimin's own, the air was sterile. Monitors beeped softly. Outside, rain began to tap against the window. Jimin lay propped against the pillows, pale but conscious. His eyes kept drifting to the door. Even when the nurse told him Jungkook was near, he knew what was happening. He knew Jungkook was punishing himself. And it hurt more than the panic attack, more than the whispers online. Because Jungkook wasn't just his bandmate, he was his anchor. And right now, that anchor was drifting away, sinking under guilt he never deserved. Jimin pulled out his phone. His hand still shook, but he opened Instagram, typed the words slowly, and posted the story that would change everything. I was never alone. Jungkook was always there, even when I didn't deserve him. Then he waited back in the HLW. The nurse approached again. He saw your post, she said gently. He's crying now, Jungkook SSI. You should go to him. Jungkook stood up for the first time in hours. His knees felt weak, and his heart pounded like it was trying to escape. Point one step. Then two. Then he stopped. His fingers hovered over the door handle. Inside that room was his best friend. His Hyung. The person he might have hurt without meaning to. The person he loved more than words could carry. But guilt is a chain that tightens the closer you get to freedom. Suddenly, the door opened from the inside. Jimin stood there, eyes red. No muck-up. Hospital gown still loose at the shoulder, and no words. Just raw silence between them. Jungkook opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Instead, Jimin stepped forward and, slowly, carefully, wrapped his arms around him. Jungkook broke. His chest caved in. His arms locked around Jimin like if he let go, the world would collapse. "I'm sorry," he choked out. "I should have been there." "You were," Jimin whispered, "in all the ways that mattered." But something unseen still lurks in the shadows, because Jimin's panic attack wasn't random. And the security camera footage, it wasn't supposed to leak. Someone wanted the world to see Jungkook cry. And the question is, why? This wasn't an accident. The words were barely above a whisper, spoken in the still of Jimin's hospital room. Jungkook looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" Jimin's eyes didn't move from the window. His fingers twisted the blanket slowly, like he was trying to anchor himself to something real. "I didn't just collapse because of stress," he said. "I think someone wanted this to happen." The silence that followed was worse than screaming 24 hours earlier. Unseen camera footage, dim hallway. Two shadows, 1 figure, slim, wearing a staff lanyard, was seen entering the dressing area. Something glinted in their hand. They moved quickly, like they knew the layout. Like they'd done it before. 15 minutes later, Jimin took a sip from his energy drink bottle backstage. 3 minutes after that, he began to sweat uncontrollably. His breath shortened. His eyes dilated. And no one noticed until it was too late. And now, that security footage was gone. Deleted. Corrupted. Only one person saw it before it vanished. And that person hadn't meant to share it. Present. HYBEHQ. 11th floor. Namjoon paced the studio lounge with his phone pressed to his ear. "Are you absolutely sure it was tampered with?" he asked the head of security. The answer was a tired sigh. "All the data from that section is missing. Wipe clean. No backup. CCTV doesn't just wipe itself." "I know," the man said. "That's what scares me." Namjoon hung up and turned to Taeyong and Yoongi, who had been sitting nearby in tense silence. "Someone inside did this," he said quietly, "and they're covering their tracks." Yoongi ran a hand through his hair. "You think this was about Jimin?" Namjoon hesitated. "No, I think it was about Jungkook." Meanwhile, hospital ROM Jungkook sat next to Jimin's bed, shoulders tense. He hadn't left since their embrace. "I don't get it," he said finally. "Why would anyone want to hurt you? Or me?" Jimin looked down at his forehead. His voice was almost too soft to hear. "I've been receiving messages for months," he said. "Anonymous emails. They started as hate mail. But lately they changed." He reached to the drawer beside his bed and pulled out a printed page. Jungkook read the first line. "He will betray you like all the others. Just wait." His blood ran cold. Flashback. 1 month ago, Jimin had found the first message in his hotel room in Tokyo. A folded note under his pillow that he didn't tell anyone. Not even the staff, that he assumed it was a fan who got too close. But then they started appearing in his dressing room, in his luggage, in his food delivery orders. The tone shifted. They weren't about Jimin anymore. They were about Jungkook. The bacteria into Jungkook stood, panic simmering beneath his skin. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want you to blame yourself," Jimin said. "I thought maybe it was just someone obsessed. A troll." Jungkook's jaw tightened. "This isn't just trolling. This is planned. Calculated." A pause. "What if they knew we fought?" he added. "What if they were waiting for us to be apart?" Jimin didn't answer. He didn't have to. The dots were already connecting. And somewhere deep inside, Jungkook began to feel something colder than guilt. Rage. Meanwhile, unknown location of phone buzzed. Someone unseen opened the latest Instagram story to Jimin's message. "I was never alone." Jungkook was always there. The person smiled. Then they tapped on a folder labeled Next. Inside, dozens of images. Surveillance styles. Candid shots of BTS members, unaware. A photo of Jungkook outside the hospital. A receipt from a private investigator. Notes written in all caps. Stage 2. Split them from the inside back to Jimin's room. Later that day, he sat in silence for a while. The lights were dimmed. A storm cracked faintly outside. Jungkook stared at his phone, scrolling through hateful tweets, blurry concert photos, video edits dissecting his every facial twitch. He wasn't angry about being misunderstood. He was angry that while the world threw stones at him, someone had been using the chaos as cover. Then his phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You're too late." He was never meant to survive. He dropped the phone. His pulse exploded in his ears. Jimin, he started, standing abruptly. We need to leave this hospital. Now. Jimin blinked. What? There's more to this. Someone is watching us. Waiting. A beat passed. And then, the power in the hospital flickered. The story is no longer just about guilt, grief, or friendship. Now it's about survival. And the question is no longer, was Jungkook heartless? It's, who's trying to destroy them? And why? The lights went out. Not just in Jimin's hospital room, but across the entire wing. Machines beeped in confused intervals. Emergency lighting flickered, and distant footsteps echoed like something pulled from a nightmare. Jungkook's instincts kicked in. Get up, he whispered, pulling Jimin's blanket aside. We're not safe here. Jimin struggled to stand. His body was weak, but adrenaline did what medicine couldn't. They moved, quietly but urgently, through the dark hallway. A nurse appeared, her silhouette backlit by flickering lights. You can't be here, she said, but Jungkook noticed it. Her ID badge was upside down. Not hospital issued, he didn't hesitate. He pushed past her. Behind them, a door slammed. WY morning. They were hidden inside one of HYB's in-use dormitories under security lockdown. Namjoon was furious. You should have told us sooner, he growled, slamming Jimin's stalker notes on the table. This isn't just fan obsession. This is a coordinated attack. Yoongi sat beside him, rubbing his temples. We have to assume someone on the inside is feeding this. Locations, schedules, access, none of that is public. Taeyong looked at Jungkook. Do you think this is still about what happened in Tokyo? Jungkook's face darkened. I think it started there. But now it's about breaking us. All of us. Then he pulled out his phone. He had received another message. He still thinks you're his hero. Break him before he finds out. Attached was a photo that a picture of Jungkook arguing with Jimin backstage. The night of the collapse. Captured at the perfect angle to look violent, even aggressive. That IT wasn't from a phone, IT was from a security feed. They had a mole. Days passed. The group went underground, canceling all schedules. Publicly, it was postponement due to health recovery. Privately, they were unraveling. Jimin was healing physically, but emotionally, he barely slept. Every closed door made him flinch. Every shadow made him pause. Jungkook was spiraling into obsession, sleepless, glued to his laptop, tracing digital footprints, emails, metadata. It wasn't just guilt anymore, that IT was vengeance. And finally, he found something, an IP address. One that pinged inside HYB. The same network where someone had deleted the hospital CCTV footage, and where they found one chilling file buried deep in the server logs. Project Black Swan private folder. Encrypted, hidden under someone's personal drive, belonging to a name they never expected. One of their own managers. Jungkook stared at the screen. He was there, the night we fought. Namjoon's voice was cold. He knew you'd blame yourself. He knew the internet would destroy you. Jimin leaned in. He didn't just want us to break apart. He wanted the world to watch us burn. The final straw came days later. An anonymous account leaked an audio file. Jimin crying, begging for someone to make it stop. It wasn't recent. That IT was months old, recorded during therapy, private, confidential, torn from context, and posted with the caption, "So much for brotherhood." He was already drowning. Jimin locked himself in his room that night. And Jungkook sat outside the door, head in his hands, whispering things no one heard. But in the midst of silence, Jimin came out. Quietly, determined. We finished this, he said, voice steady. Not just for us. For everyone who thinks they're alone. Their bond was tested. Their trust was shattered and rebuilt. But now, they know the enemy. And it's not just a stalker. Not just the internet, it's someone who used love as a weapon and watched as the world turned it into hate. They found him. The man who had stood beside them through world tours, fan meetings, late-night rehearsals. Their trusted manager, Hyun-soo. But trust had been a mask in the dim light of the control room. Jungkook stared at him across the table. No cameras. No audios. Just truth. Why? He asked, voice raw. Hyun-soo didn't flinch. Because no one sees you bleed. And people like me? We rot behind the curtains while the world worships you. Jimin froze. It wasn't jealousy. It was obsession. twisted affection. Hyun-soo didn't want them destroyed. He wanted them to need him, that he wanted to be the one who saved them, that he made sure they'd fall. The panic attack? Not poison, but a trigger. A combination of overexertion, dehydration, and carefully timed psychological manipulation. The emails, the notes, the audio leaks, all planted, all designed to erode Jimin's mental state. Just enough for him to collapse. Just enough for Jungkook to break. But Hyun-soo didn't count on something. They didn't shatter. They held on to each other. 1 week, a little of the world didn't know what had happened behind the scenes. HYB released a quiet statement. A breach of internal privacy has been handled. No names, no scandal. But fans knew. They saw the difference when BTS took the stage again. Jimin, smaller than ever in his frame, but standing taller. Jungkook, still and fierce, eyes darker than before. And when their hands brushed mid-song, when their voices overlapped on the chorus of Answer, Love Myself, the world held its breath and words were needed. That stage wasn't a performance, the IT was survival. Backstage. After the Jimin leaned against the wall, sweat still clinging to his skin. Jungkook approached quietly, holding a bottle of water. They didn't speak for a while. Finally, Jimin said, I thought I had to carry everything alone. I thought if I broke, I'd ruin everything. Jungkook's eyes softened. You don't have to be okay all the time. I just need you to be here. Jimin smiled. Tired. Real. I am. 3 months later, a new documentary teaser dropped online. One still frame from it went viral within minutes. Jungkook on camera, looking straight at the lens, that he says, simply, I wasn't heartless. I was heartbroken. But healing doesn't happen in silence. That IT happens when the truth is louder than the lie. And now they're ready to sing it.